If you ever doubted that God can change everything in a single moment, then you need to hear this story. Because there was once a miracle so powerful, so undeniable, that it didn't just inspire a few conversions, it led to over 10,000 people giving their lives to Christ instantly. No armies, no politics, no violence, just a miracle. And the quiet, unstoppable power of God. This is the real story of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and how one miraculous event changed the future of an entire continent. The year was 1531. The land we now call Mexico was still bleeding from the wounds of conquest. The Spanish had arrived, bringing their faith, but also violence, greed, and disease. The native peoples, especially the Aztecs, were confused, heartbroken, and deeply suspicious of these foreign invaders. They had seen their temples destroyed, their way of life ripped apart. And though the Spanish tried to convert them, almost no one was listening. At that time, the Catholic missionaries were making almost no progress. Conversions were rare, slow, and filled with mistrust. Until one morning, everything changed. On December 9th, 1531, a poor native man named Juan Diego was walking across Tepeyac Hill on his way to attend Mass. Juan was not a powerful man. He wasn't rich, he wasn't educated. He was just an ordinary man with an extraordinary heart. A man who had accepted the Catholic faith only a few years earlier. As he climbed the hill, he suddenly heard beautiful music. Music unlike anything he had ever heard before. Soft, powerful, otherworldly. He looked up and there, surrounded by a light brighter than the sun, stood a woman. She was dressed in garments shining like the stars, her face gentle, full of love, her hands folded in prayer. She spoke to him, not in Spanish, but in his own native tongue, Nahuatl. She called him little son and told him she was the mother of the true God. She asked Juan to go to the Bishop of Mexico City and tell him that she wanted a church built on that very spot so she could show her love and compassion to all people. Now imagine for a second, you are a poor native man, no power, no influence, and you are being asked to go convince the bishop of the city. It seemed impossible, and it was. When Juan Diego reached the bishop, he was brushed off. The bishop asked for proof, something real, something undeniable. Juan returned to Tepeyac Hill, ashamed and heartbroken. He told the beautiful lady what had happened, and with the love only a mother could show, she smiled and promised him a sign. 3 days later, on December 12th, Juan Diego climbed the hill again. What he found was nothing short of a miracle. In the middle of winter, when the ground was frozen and barren, flowers were blooming. Beautiful, radiant roses of Castile, flowers that could not possibly grow there. The Virgin Mary told him to gather the flowers in his cloak, called a tilma. Juan did exactly that. He wrapped the miraculous roses carefully in his tilma and hurried back to the bishop. When he finally arrived and opened the tilma before the bishop and his attendants, the roses spilled out onto the floor. But that was not the real miracle. Because when the roses fell, everyone in the room gasped and dropped to their knees. Because imprinted on Juan Diego's tilma, as if painted by heavenly hands, was an image of the Virgin Mary herself. Not just any image, a perfect image. She appeared not as a Spanish woman, but as a mestiza, someone of mixed native and European descent. Her clothing was filled with native symbols the Aztecs instantly recognized. The stars on her cloak represented the exact constellations in the sky that night. The black ribbon around her waist signified she was pregnant. She stood in front of the sun and on top of the moon, showing she was greater than their old gods. Every detail spoke directly to the hearts of the native people, not through force, not through fear, but through love. The news spread like wildfire. Within days, crowds of native people came to see the miraculous image. Many traveled for days across mountains and deserts, just to glimpse her. And when they saw her, their hearts melted. They understood immediately this was not the God of the conquerors. This was the mother of the true God, and she had come not to destroy them, but to love them. Tens of thousands converted almost overnight. In the first week alone, historical records speak of 10,000 people baptized after seeing the tilma. And that was just the beginning. Over the next few years, millions of Aztecs, entire tribes, entire villages, left behind their old gods, abandoned the brutal human sacrifices that had soaked their temples in blood, and embraced Christ. It was one of the greatest mass conversions in human history, and it happened not through armies, not through political treaties, but through the soft, persistent miracle of a mother's love. Even today, scientists cannot fully explain how the image was created. The tilma is made of cactus fibers, a material that should have fallen apart after 20 years. Yet it has survived almost 500 years without rotting. The colors are still vivid. The fabric remains intact. Under intense scientific study, researchers found no brushstrokes, no pigments that they can explain. When studied under a microscope, the eyes of the Virgin Mary even reflect tiny human figures, as if captured in the moment Juan opened the tilma. Coincidence? Or the touch of heaven itself? The story of Our Lady of Guadalupe is not just a history lesson. It is a reminder that in the darkest times when human efforts fail, God is still moving. He is still sending his messengers. He is still reaching out through his mother. He is still calling souls home, not with violence, not with fear, but with love. The same love that changed 10,000 lives in one moment is still at work today. Maybe even right now, in you.